Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of GMAT Success Stories, where we uncover the inspiring journeys of individuals who have conquered the GMAT exam. But today, before we begin, I want to talk about the biggest AdCom event of 2024 organized by GMAT Club, which is happening just in 3 weeks. Yes, I'm talking about the MBA Spotlight, the biggest virtual MBA fair where you can connect with over 100 adcoms, ask questions, and make a great first impression that could significantly boost your admission chances in R1. Check out the live chat window or the description box for the registration links. Spots are limited and they are filling super fast, so I would suggest you register if you haven't done so already. All right, let's get into the video. So today we have Piyush with us. He's a petroleum engineer from ISM Dhanbad, currently working in the oil and energy sector. Piyush recently scored about 735 in the Focus edition, hitting the 100 percentile on his fourth attempt. After preparing on and off for the GMAT for the last 2 years, today he's here with us to share his journey and tell you the mistakes that you need to avoid. And so let's just get started. All right. Thank you for joining us, Piyush, today. We are excited to hear about your journey. So, why don't you start by sharing how your GMAT preparation began?
Okay, first of all, thanks a lot for hosting me on this platform. So this is the place where everyone starts their GMAT preparation, and being featured on that website, it's an honor. So my GMAT journey began like most people because I tried for CAT. That didn't happen for me, and till that time I already had a 3 years of work ex, and I was like, okay, now what next? And then probably GMAT becomes that option. So it was a very generic getting into that, but yeah, the past 2 years have been on and off like a good ride to say at least.
Awesome. So, why don't you also tell us how did you, get on the GMAT journey and why did you decide to take the GMAT in the first place?
Right. So most of the schools, like obviously, for that matter, ISBs, IIM Ahmedabad, like all the 1 year courses in India and all the reputed courses abroad, GMAT is their preference. And something connected with me because with the very first time I solved CR question, that was something very interesting for me. I find CR very intriguing, and I have spent multiple like hours solving CR and trying to develop new ways and methods to think about it and how to go about it. So I think that was where it clicked for me. Like if you compare GMAT with GRE, so CR was that thing that said, okay, this is what we should do it. And yeah, that has been the journey.
Awesome. Can you share what all insights you gained over the past years of preparing for the GMAT? How many attempts did you take? I mean, I already mentioned you had 4 attempts, but you can just go about it. Like, give us some, insights about your entire journey, 2 years journey.
Right. So to start with, the very first time I gave GMAT, I got a score of 650. So that was not very thought of attempt. It was a very, so to say, a overconfident attempt that let's just go and give. Post that, what I did was a mistake. A mistake that I did was I enrolled myself in multiple coachings. Like I don't think there's any coaching in the market that I have not enrolled myself in. And I was jumping from one to another every time. And an analogy that I like to give about it is imagine that you're in a plane, the plane is about to take off. So before reaching its cruising altitude, it goes through clouds and there is turbulence. You cannot go down on every turbulence. You have to stay with the plane and you have to live through that turbulence. So a mistake that I was doing whenever it used to get hard, like I used to get easy questions right, medium questions right, and as and when it came to hard questions and I was not getting them right, instead of focusing on my methods, I was of the thought, okay, I think I need a different coaching. So that is a mistake that I did time and again. Uh, so first I got a 710. Then again I thought, okay, there's something missing. I should retake another coaching or something. Again, that did not work. I just got a 720. Post that, I applied to ISB in September last year, and then I was waitlisted. And on I was waitlisted in round one, quartile one, and on 1st March, that waitlist was shifted from Q1. I was dropped to Q4. So that sort of gave me an indication. Okay, maybe it won't happen this year. So I started studying, like revising my notes and solving questions from GMAT Club. And on 30th March, I got my final rejection, and on 27th April, I had the score. So yeah, that was a good turnaround for me, and I'm very proud of myself for that.
Of course, of course. So you scored 650, 710, and 720 in your initial attempts, and in the final attempt, you got a 735, which is 100 percentile. Like, so what was your strategy? How did you change your approach, and what was the biggest change that you did to get this score?
Yeah. The biggest change was a change in mindset, to be very frank. And that is, I think, what differentiates someone. So, like, what I believe on any given day, if anyone who has studied for GMAT, like who has done his course and everything, is given the same questions in an untimed environment, they would be able to solve it. Like, I think some would be able to solve it with a higher accuracy than me also, right? So it all boils down to how do you control your nerves on the exam day, how calm you are. So these were the few insights I had about myself while solving mocks and while solving questions, that what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and focusing very deeply on those. Spending, so there were days when I just solved one CR question in the entire day, but the idea was to get into the depth of it. Like, I will not just simply let it go. So like a very actionable thing that people can take away from this video is, whenever you're solving a CR or a RC question, think of them as a set of 5 true and false questions. So against each option, write why do you think it's true, why do you think it's false, and write down. Like, do not just think, write it. Why exactly are you eliminating it? Why exactly are you choosing it? And that exercise, once you have done with, say, 30 to 40 questions, your thinking will drastically improve. And I think that is what something I did different in my preparation. And that is showing in the result, that 99th percentile in verbals. So, yeah, that
Of course.
was one of the biggest things. Like,
Yeah. All right. So can you elaborate on your mock test strategy and how you analyzed your performance?
right. So, for mock, what I realized very early on, that GMAT can be divided into two steps. Like, the first step is where you fill in your knowledge gaps. So there are few concepts that you need to know, like what a assumption is in the first place, what a strengthening question is in the first place. For DI, what percentages are there? What is the meaning of standard deviation mean? So there are basic concepts that you must know to crack this exam. So the first stage for me was to fill in my knowledge gap. How did I test that there is no knowledge gap? Was that when on 1st March or 2nd March, I gave the official mock one for Focus Edition. What I did was I gave it in an untimed manner. What I basically mean is, I took a question, took a screenshot, and then solved it. Then again moved to next question, paused the test. So there was no time pressure as such, and I was able to score 675. So which basically for me translated to, Piyush, okay, there is no as such knowledge gap, but there is still, you're not able to do it in a timed environment. So let us focus on that. So moving from there, what I realized, that quant is okay. I really do not have much of knowledge gap in quant. Probably because in the JE days you have already read all these concepts and in much greater depth and detail. For anyone who is struggling in quant, I would actually suggest you that you should like bifurcate the topics, like what are the topics available, and for each topic you should be very clear why such formulas exist. Say, for example, there's this thing, like just a very simple example, that if you have two equation and two variables, you can solve it. But what are the edge cases of this thing? If those two lines are parallel, you cannot actually solve it. So such things, you really need to focus on those minute details, and that is what GMAT tests. Uh, One mistake that I used to do in quant in all my attempts throughout, like, was silly mistakes. Basically, how do I say it? Reading a word wrong. If they're asking for speed, I am calculating distance. Some these sort of mistakes, which boil down to not reading every word. So what I did on my exam day was, I put up on my writing pad, read every word, and I put that in front of my screen so that I'm able to read each and every word. So this is few of the practical things that I did, that people can copy in their own preparation. Moving on to mocks, while giving mocks, I realized for DI, I was never able to complete all those 20 questions in that timed manner. So that's the biggest challenge of DI as of right now. But then, as in when I was searching for articles, I think I found one on GMAT Club itself. It was about how GMAT is an adaptive test and how it matters that the first 10 to 11 questions you should get right, rather than, so if you get the first two questions wrong versus the last two questions wrong, there's a big difference in the score. So the idea was that I had this mindset that I will be solving only 18 questions on the exam day, because in none of the mocks I was ever able to solve all the questions. So that was a takeaway from mocks. So the idea of giving a mock is, one, to sit in a timed environment for that much amount of time and pressure, and secondly, be very introspective that what you're doing and what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Like in one mock, I tried to start it with DI section, like the order in which you need to give. So say there are three sections and you have a total of six choices, how you can give your exam. So that becomes very important. What I think, like for me, what works, and I think it will work for most of the people, would be give quant, DI in one block and then take a 10-minute break. So either it can be quant DI, 10-minute break, verbal. This is what I did, or it can be verbal, 10-minute break, quant DI. So this is something, again, this can be a practical takeaway from this video that people should think about. Moving on to verbal. Acha, haan. Also, Focus Edition has this thing that where you can review your questions, right? So in the mock, you actually need to figure out for yourself that are you actually able to review it? Like, are you able to reach to the end of it? So for me, it was that in quant, I was able to reach to the last question and still have 2 to 3 minutes in hand that I could use to review. But in verbal and DI, in none of the mocks, I had that time. So it was a pre-decided in my mind that none of the question in DI or verbal on the actual exam, I will mark for review, because that adds a layer of security, which is a false thing. Because I'm not able to reach back there, but it gives me a false sense of security that, okay, maybe. So to avoid those traps is one thing. So yeah, that is basically about my mocks. The idea of mock should be to know yourself. How are you performing? And you should only and only give mocks when you are sure that all your knowledge gaps are filled. And knowledge gap you can judge by giving a mock in an untimed manner. So yeah, that is that.
Awesome. I think these are such amazing strategies and tips that you just shared. On that note, I would request the viewers to hit the like button if you are enjoying this video, and let us know if you have any more questions for Piyush, and we are happy to answer. All right, moving on. Piyush, we need some final tips and advice from you. I know you have already shared some amazing strategies, but if you have any more final tips and advices for the students that are looking to take the GMAT.
I think the, like for the exam day, like that the D day when you are going to enter the exam, you should be very calm in your head. And I know it's easier said than done. So a thing that I use, and I think it's again a very practical thing that you can take away, is whenever a thought comes, a negative thought, whatever, like maybe if I flunk again the exam, what would happen? What if it's very tough? All these sort of questions that come in your head, just tell to yourself that we'll think about it later. Just keep on telling your mind that, okay, we'll think about it later, we'll think about it later. And that is something I actually continuously did on my exam day to stop overthinking. uh, Second thing is the importance of reading every word. So while revising my notes and error logs, I had made this a point for me that if I get 8 questions wrong, four of them were because of not reading every word. So as I said earlier in the video, that read every word, like put that on a piece of paper and put that in front of your computer, so that you do not miss those questions. Those small leakages do not happen in your actual exam. And yeah, that should be it. Uh, but and rest, it's all comes down to how well are you able to think on that day.
All right. So we have a lot of questions coming in for you, Piyush. I'll just start going through them one by one. Um, all right. So Nilesh asks, when was the first attempt? How many months back before the fourth one?
So first attempt was in the year 2022, September or October. I do not exactly remember. Then the second attempt was in June 2023. Third was in September 2023. and the fourth attempt was in 27th April this year. So, and this was not a continuous thing. So, one again, a very actionable takeaway is that if you have decided to appear for GMAT, it's very important that you have a momentum for GMAT, because finally GMAT is an aptitude test, and aptitude is nothing but how well do you exercise your mind, how well are you able to think, right? So you need to have a momentum. Say, for example, if you decide to give GMAT, block your next 90 to 100 days only and only for GMAT. And I get, as working professionals, at times the workload is very heavy. On those days, just make sure that you are solving at least one question. Just do not leave touch with GMAT. That is one very actionable tip and a mistake that I did, due to which it took so long.
Right. All right. Next question from Manvi. How did you go from one difficulty level to another? What did you do when questions got hard and you couldn't get them right?
Like in the exam or in preparation? I think during preparation it means, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I changed the coaching. That is what I was doing. Okay,
That
so
was a mistake.
right, yeah, that was a mistake. Do not do that. So what I would suggest here is, do not think of questions in term of difficulty, because in the actual exam the questions don't come with a difficulty meter, right? So do not think about questions this way. uh, for, say, for example, in context of verbal, think of question only in terms of what are they trying to test. So when you write down your answers, you will know what is that you're missing. So basically, there are themes in critical reasoning: cause and effect, causation, correlation. These are the broad themes. So try and grasp those themes. That becomes very important, and that you'll be able to do when you write your answers. Same in the case of DI and quant, what I would suggest is you should always write very neatly while you are solving. That way you would always know which question you. So if you solve a quant question in a very proper writing way, and at last you get it wrong, so you exactly can go back and see at which step you went wrong, right? And even on the exam day it is very important. So what I did on my writing pad, I extensively like made four columns. So I made a what do I say, cross mark in the between of the papers. So it was divided into four sections: one, two, three, four. So in each page I was solving just four questions. So just in case if I had to come back, I knew where the working was and I could pick it up from there. So that becomes very important. So to Manvi, to answer it, I think you should not think of questions in terms of difficulty. Do not skip coaching when things get hard. And yeah, solve as many questions as diligently as possible. And always, like, if you take 5 minutes to solve a question, at least take 5 minutes to understand what other learnings were there. If you got it right, and if you got it wrong, think of what did you exactly miss. So that introspection actually becomes very, very critical in GMAT case.
Awesome. All right. So Vijay asks you about your study routine. How long did it take you to prepare? How long to spend for preparation?
Okay, so again, not a very direct answer. Like 2 years from start to end. And study routine, so it again, Kyuki, it's a job. You are doing a full-time job. With that, you have to prepare. So there was no routine as such. I just used to pick up the topics that. So the first step. So it's a very common advice that before starting the prep for GMAT, give a mock. The antithesis of this was that for sentence correction, you used to know certain grammatical rules. Without that, you cannot actually solve. And many of us have lost touch of those, right? So now sentence correction is not there, and there's not exactly anything very solid hardcore that you need to remember as such. So what I used to do, that I knew, okay, these are the areas where I'm weak at. Say for quant, I was weak in probability, PNC. In DI, I was weak in MSR, data sufficiency, uh, VR, and few questions of RC. So I knew these are my weak areas, and whenever I'm studying, I used to study those type of questions whenever I used to get time. So yeah, not a very hard routine. And how long to spend for prep? Matlab 1 hour minimum every day that you should give.
Yeah. All right. Next question is I struggle. It's not a question, but he's saying that I struggle with GMAT Focus. Has a score of 6565. Do you have any
I think the
advice for?
first. Yeah, the first step should be to analyze that. Like, why did you get a 565? What are your weak areas? Because the good thing with GMAT is it's a very standardized test. Because the scores remain valid for 5 years, so the questions are pretty much standard. So once you go and actually know that which topic you are weak at. So I'll tell you a story here. When I got my first 650 and I was very tense. So I went to one of my friends and this was the same question more or less that I'm struggling with GMAT, what to do. And she asked me that exactly which area. And I had no answer to that. Like, so that is what you need to pinpoint for yourself exactly which areas. It can be 15 areas. Do not worry about that. But once you have pinpointed those, then you can improve on those, right? So I think that would be your first step to pinpoint your areas where you're weak.
Great. All right. Suraj asks, any courses you joined, how you prepared?
Every course, every course possible I have joined. Okay. So yeah, that is a mistake. Do not do that. Do not jump courses. Do not please do that. So see, my idea is join any course. All the courses in market are good. Like, and take it from me because I have taken each and every course possible. They are good. The trickier part is to stay with a course. That is what I was not able to do in my initial days. Do not see. The idea is if you do something 80% and leave it, it's no good. So whichever course you are picking, and every course I think has a free trial. So take that, judge for yourself it is working for you, and then stick with it till the very end. Do not leave in between. And so I initially till September I prepared using various courses, but this year from for focus edition from March till April when I gave the exam, I did not buy any course as such. I was just like sticking to my basics and making sure that I go to the depth of each and every question that I'm solving. So basically, it was a mindset shift this year. And yeah, course wise, join any course, take the free trial, see if it works for you, join it, and stay with it. Please stay with it. Do not jump courses.
Awesome. All right. Next question. Primary source for practicing quants, verbal, and DI.
Uh, I think for quant, I did not practice much. Same with DI. So basically, there are a lot of videos on GMAT Club itself, like YouTube channel, where a lot of experts solve those questions. That is what I used for DI. So with for me specifically, and see if you're good at quants, it will happen for you also. That in DI you will not need as much of information as you need a mindset. How to solve those questions in an exam time manner when you have that pressure. So that is what worked for me. For verbal, I have used GMAT Club extensively. Like I think I have solved more than 200, 300 questions on GMAT Club itself for verbal, time and again. So yeah, that is the thing with verbal on GMAT Club is you have to stick to few of the expert answers and see those questions where those experts have answered. So you have a consistency in the explanation and you're able to understand. So there are some pretty good educators on like the experts on GMAT Club, where they mention their thought of how they are solving. So that becomes a very great learning opportunity.
Awesome. All right. Moving on to the next question. What was your RC strategy given that we have only 2 to 3 minutes to read the passage and then go for the questions?
Okay. So again, do not think of it in terms of time. I'd say why. RC strategy for me, like starting with beginning, was to be good at CR first. What I understood very early in my preparation was that RC is nothing but expanded CR. CR, you have one passage, here you have three passage, there they have one hard question, here they have three medium to hard question. So more or less it's the same thing. So focus first on CR, and to focus on CR, you should just write down, like think of CR and RC has five true and false question that I mentioned in the start. So that is what I did for my RC as well when I was trying to solve in my learning phase. Exactly mentioning why I'm eliminating a particular option or exactly why I'm selecting a particular option, and then going back and actually spending too much time on analyzing it if I'm getting it right or wrong. Then see what happens if I like you can message me, I can share with you my ESR, like the report. You would see that just reading the first question and reading the entire passage and solving the first question, it used to take me 4 to 5 minutes. Any like the first question of RC, right? So do not worry about time. You need to worry about confidence. So in your practice session, like before exam, when you're practicing before mocks, You should be confident that if you are given a RC of 8 questions, you would be able to solve 6 to 7. That confidence you should have. So what happens in exam, due to time pressure, at times we do not give our full attention because of lack of confidence. You are spending say 5 minutes in a question and you're not confident that you will be able to solve it, so you rush through it. So the first step is to gain a confidence, and that is where I say the first step is to fill your knowledge gap, to be sure that there is nothing knowledge wise that you are lacking. Thus you'll have the confidence in exam that even if a question is taking 5 minutes, you'll be able to solve it. A parallel to RC is MSR in DI. Like the first question in DI of MSR, I took 6.5 minutes to solve just one question. But I was very sure that I am doing the steps right. So eventually the next two questions will take less time, and overall on an average it will be managed. So for RC also the idea is to be very thorough when you're reading for the first time. Even if it's taking 4 minutes for you, do not worry, because after that 4 minutes, you'll spend 2 minutes on solving the first question, but the next two questions you would solve very quickly if you have understood the RC well. So yeah, do not take time pressure. Think of it in terms of filling the knowledge gap first, and once you have done that, then come on the timed environment.
Great advice. Moving on, Vijay says I scored 740 in mock, but just 630 in the actual test. Please advise on how to build confidence.
Confidence is just you have to just repeat it again and again. So that's the only way of building confidence in anything. You have to give multiple mocks. So like for me in my focus edition, when I used to give in the classic edition, my all the mock score, like I gave around 20 mocks for every weekend. I think that was a routine. Every weekend I would wake up on a Sunday and give a mock. So my scores always used to lie between 700 to 740. So that was pretty consistent there. And on my both the exams, I got 710 and 720. So you need to give more mocks basically and see what the trend is. There's this thumb rule that you should give at least 3 mocks. You should give your exam after you have got your desired score in at least 3 mocks consecutively. So that is one thumb rule you can follow. You got 714 one of the mocks. Try giving a few other mocks and see how things happen. But yeah, practice is the only way to build confidence. Nothing else. There is no magic formula.
True that. Next one from Anushri. I'm a bit weak in RC and data insights. Sometimes I just feel lost. Please suggest something.
So you feel lost because of time pressure. I can bet that if I give you the same DI question and I give you the entire day, like you have just this one question and you have the entire day to solve it, you would be able to solve it. You're feeling lost because you are taking time pressure. So do not take that. Pick that question up because there is no rocket science in GMAT. These are very pretty simple questions. Maximum they go 2 level of thinking. That is it. That is very easy to achieve if you do not take the time pressure. Do not take the time pressure initially. Reach that level of accuracy first, and from there you would easily be able to get through it. Both for RC and DI, just solve one question every day. Do not solve much more than that. But for that one question, give your everything that you have. Like think thoroughly. Do not see the answers. Do not see the solutions. Just sit with that question for as long as possible till you yourself are not convinced that yes, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I'm thinking right. That's the reason I'm trying to tell again and again. For RC, think of the 5 questions as 5 true and false questions, and against each question, write true or false and why true or why false. That would be a great starting point. Hope that
Yeah,
helps.
great advice. Next question from Siddhant. How accurate can the mock experience be compared to the actual GMAT?
I think it's pretty much accurate. Like all the focus edition mocks that I gave. So I gave and the good thing with focus edition is you have mock 1 and 2. You can repeat them. Mock 3 and 4, and you can again repeat them. So effectively, I gave 8 mocks, and the scores were like I did not got a 735 very honestly in the mocks. The highest in mock I saw was 705, 695, 685. So this was the range that I was getting. So yeah, it's pretty accurate, I think.
All right. All right. So VG asks how to manage time in verbal section.
Again, as the first step, if you have reached the accuracy of 80% in an untimed manner, then this problem will not come automatically. So that the first step should be that. And if you are struggling really a lot, so think of like remove last three questions. Say for example, there are 23 questions in verbal. Think that you only have to solve 20 questions, and for the last three questions, just put randomly mark anything, because GMAT doesn't really punish you for getting the last three questions wrong. So you can use that to your advantage there.
Awesome. All right. Which websites you did you use to take a mock test apart from GMAT official?
Like in the classic edition, I have used almost all the free mocks available on all the coaching and official. And for focus, I gave only the official mocks, and I think that should suffice. You really, because the thing with is that these are adaptive mocks and very close to what actual GMAT it would take place. So my these the strategy of leaving the last two questions, I have actually tested them in the mocks, that how much my score affects. So you should always, I think you should always and always give official mocks. I swear by them.
All right. So few of the people are asking how can they connect with you. Maybe you can drop in your LinkedIn or something.
How do I drop in my LinkedIn? So it's basically PIYUSH14RY everywhere on Instagram, LinkedIn, and mail ID is Piyush14ry@gmail.com. Can you type that in the chat box, please?
Yes. Just give a minute.
Actually, I'm from my tablet, so I am not able to type here.
It's Piyush.
14, numeric 14, ry@gmail.com.
All right. Cool. Let's get on with the comments. Where was I? All right. Suraj asks, did you run short of time on any of the sections on your test day?
Yeah, DI. As I said, I was never able to complete the 20 questions. So yeah, I marked the 18th question. Last two question, I just put anything and just let it be. It's very important that you attempt all the question. Do not leave any question. GMAT punishes you a lot if you leave a question. Do not leave a question.
Awesome. Um, then we have Nilesh. He asks, my mock scores are decreasing even though I can solve questions better now in GMAT Club OG resource. Any tips? He got a 595 in the first attempt,
So I
585.
think there are major knowledge gaps that you have. Again, it comes down to like divide your entire syllabus into like actionable insights. Say, for example, if you are thinking CR, think of CR in terms of assumption question, strengthening question, weekend question. So there are 10 types of question in CR, right? Then RC, there are broadly two to three types of RCs. So, and then for DI, for quant. So in everything, you should make a Excel, maintain it, and exactly see what you're getting wrong. And then spend a lot of time in that till the time you're not able to reach 80% accuracy. And post that, go for mocks. Do not go for mocks very initially. It doesn't really help. Just give the first mock in an untimed manner to understand your knowledge gaps, and post that, fill your knowledge gaps, and then again at the end move to mocks.
All right. Um, what time of the day was your exam and what did you do on the day until the exam?
Okay, so my was supposed to start from 10:30. I woke up at 9 that day, and I was just trying to keep myself calm that day. And whatever thoughts used to come in my mind, I was just like, you do not worry about it. Well, think about it just 4 hours later. So just delay, just give your mind that you will think about it later. That is what I was doing till the exam time and even during the exam time. So that becomes very important. You should have a strategy in place that what is the section order that you would be attempting. This is one mistake I did while driving to the examination center. I was trying to call one of my friend and asking him that in which order should I attempt, which
Mhm.
was a very big mistake. You should not do that. Pick any of the two that I said: quant TI, 10-minute break verbal, or verbal 10-minute break quant TI. I would hardly advise against going for any other order apart from these two.
Great. All right. Next question. Have you finished the GMAT official question bank? And if yes, what's your opinion about the questions there?
Uh, Specifically, I did not do that. So I was solving from GMAT Club, just setting the difficulty at 705 to 800. So, like specifically, I did not. And again, see, I would strongly suggest do not go in that direction of judging the question. There is like you will not actually gain anything from this. All you should focus on, pick a question, copy paste it in your Word document, solve those questions, and see what you can learn from it. Even if the question is easy and you got it wrong, you can still learn from it. Uh, Even if a hard question you got it right, you can still learn from it. Just focus on that. There's no much value in comparing questions from different sources. That doesn't really add any value to your preparation. So I strongly advise against this.
Awesome.
Sorry if that comes out a bit rude, but yeah.
So
Uh,
next question, from where have you solved quant?
so very honestly, I have not solved quant from multiple or many sources because I was kind of confident about my ability of quant. There are just two topics, PNC and probability, that I was weak at. So I studied the basics and then solved question from GMAT Club just to be sure that okay, I'm able to get those right. That is it. Will not be able to help much there. But again, the idea is pretty simple. When you're solving quant, write it down and solve it. If you get it wrong, go back and see what exactly did you do wrong, and then just make a Excel or a diary, some sort of error log. Error log need not be fancy, but just something that why did you get it wrong exactly. For me, most of the answer to why I got it wrong was that I did not read it properly. Also, an insight that I had about myself regarding quant was that I get quant questions wrong only when I'm mentally fatigued. So that was the reason for me to pick quant and DI first, then take a 10-minute break, and then verbal. So it's very important that it doesn't really matter from where do you solve. It matters how do you solve and what insights about yourself are you able to derive from it. So GMAT Club is a good enough source to solve. Like GMAT Club is I think the best source for GMAT. Like you have everything here.
True that. So, guys, if you are finding Piyush's insights very helpful, please show your support, and hit the subscribe and the like button. All right, we will move on to our next question. How did you manage your time during the exam? I struggled to complete all questions.
So in quant, I did not. In DI, I used to struggle. My solution was simply that I'll forget the last two questions. I'll solve just the 18 question. So you can use that. GMAT doesn't really punish you to getting the last two questions wrong. So think of your exam as say DI only 18 question. In quant, you have quant actually punishes you a lot because actually quant what has happened that with data sufficiency not there anymore, quant you actually need to practice. There's no other way. In DI you can eliminate the last two questions because in quant I got just one question wrong and I got a 94th percentile. So that shows that there are a lot of people who have got all the questions right. So in quant you need and to study, like there's no other way in quant. For DI and verbal, you can skip the last two questions in your head that you're only solving 18 question and 21 question that way. And during exam, you should track your time broadly. With that, what I mean is divide your time into 15-minute segments. So it's a total 45-minute test for each segment, right? And say in DI you have 20 questions. So my idea was that I'd be solving 18 questions only. But every 15th minute mark, I used to see that okay, where am I on the time frame, like on the question? Am I on question number six, seventh, or eighth? If I'm there, it's all right. If I'm not there, then I need to rush. Do not track your time on every three or four questions. That actually kills your confidence. Do not do that because there are some questions that are supposed to take that time. So just broadly monitor your time on a 15-minute horizon, that on every 15-minute mark on which question you are, and that should be more or less on the one third mark. Yeah,
All right.
hope that helped.
All right. Next question was, Focus edition easier than Classic edition?
Both have their own nitty-gritties. Very honestly, a sentence correction was something that actually I was never able to understand and be very good with it. So I was glad that sentence correction is no more there. And but there are other difficulties like solving DI in the time and the level of verbal. I think CR and RC, I think has increased a bit. I do not know. I'm not certain, but I think it has increased a bit. Quant again, it's very challenging to get all the questions right. So yeah, I think like finally again, I don't think this question you should think about it much because you cannot give classic now. You have to give focus, and what ultimately matters is what percentile you get.
Yeah. All right. So, can you share some tips for using the error log?
Okay, so this is okay. I understand from where this question is coming from. How to maintain that Excel? How to do that? I have never maintained the Excel. I have tried, was never able to. So I just used to write in my notes what are the core reasons I'm getting it wrong. If it is a knowledge gap, I used to just simply fill it. If it is a mindset gap, and with mindset, what I mean is at times I used to skip few words in CR or RC. I was not able to read every word. So that was one of the biggest insight for me while solving error logs, while maintaining my error log or whatever. For me, my error log was just one page. That is it. So when you so the idea should be very simple. If you get a question wrong, see why did you get it wrong. That is very important. If it's a knowledge gap, go right away and study that. Do not wait for a week or even for a day. Just go and study that topic. And if it is a mindset problem, for example, skipping few words, not reading every word properly, skipping few options. So if those kind of things you're doing, then you need to change your mindset deliberately setting. Yeah, that is my 2 cent on maintaining error log.
Okay, awesome. All right. Dhruv says I take 10, 20, 12 minutes in untimed to get 80% accuracy in 705 plus CR questions, but then timed falls to 50%.
So do not. So you're not ready yet for the time thing. You should practice more. That's you're on the right path. Solve more there.
Okay, awesome. Nilesh is congratulating you for the excellent score, and he wants to know where are you going for college.
I have no clue as of right now. It's just I think 3 weeks ago I got the score. I'm still doing the research because for me, I just wanted to go to ISB this year. That didn't happen. So now I need to reframe my strategy. I'd be definitely applying to ISB. That is one of my dream schools.
Great. Uh, okay, VG asks, how are you able to manage full time work with GMAT Prep?
I was not. That's the reason it took 2 years, right? So it is tough, obviously. Again, you have to be very clear why you want to do it so that a motivation comes. But then again, it is supposed to be like you are supposed to struggle with this. If you are struggling, it's very natural. Do not worry much on that. Just focus on getting the topics right, topics in control, and just do not leave touch with GMAT. Give at least solve one question per day if it's a very hectic day. Do that. That is very important. The momentum part becomes very important for GMAT. So you have to have momentum. There's no other way.
So, Piyush, how did your day look like when you were preparing for GMAT while working full time?
So when I used to come back from office by 6, I used to come back and then I used to sleep for a bit, like so all that. That I have a fresh mind when I'm studying, and then I used to wake up at 8 or 9, and then I used to study for 2 to 3 hours. So that was the ideal day, and this used to happen a lot less. Mostly it was on the move. I was trying to just solve one question, just get that one question right for that one day. Most of the days went like that. And on weekends, I used to give mock on the later stages of my preparation.
Right. All right. Guys, if you have any more questions, please drop into the chat and we will be happy to answer. We will be taking another question from the comment section. Anuj asks, which books or practice questions you use for your preparation?
No specific book. I have not read any book for my GMAT. Practice questions were mostly from GMAT Club. You can find a lot of questions. Again, I'll reiterate, it is not much about which questions you solve, but about how you solve those questions and how much depth are you going in those questions. And think of it, can you teach that solution to someone? That is the depth in which you need to solve questions in from any source that you're solving. You should always focus for depth in any question that you're solving.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think with that, we have come to an end of this podcast or interview with Piyush. It was a great conversation, Piyush. Thanks for joining us. And to our viewers, I hope you guys have registered to the MBA virtual event. It's happening on June 11th and 12th. So do register yourselves to get amazing resources and get a one-on-one chance of talking to the adcoms, giving a first impression. I think that will be very helpful. I'm sure it was helpful for me to get a lot of app free waivers last year when I was applying. So do check that out. And thanks for joining in. Thanks, Piyush, for talking to us today. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.